Okay, this video is just thinking about history and time and how things used to be and how things are today. Today, a lot of times, society is all based around people are out, there to break rules just for the sake of breaking rules. Madonna is always a perpetuator of that kind of a thing. She has to go on Johnny Carson, she has to go on Letterman, David Letterman, and use the F word. That's the cool way to be. You've got to be real, you've got to be raw, you've got to be real and raw. And it's about using the F word, confrontation, being raw, breaking rules because you have the right to, and that's the right thing to do. Breaking a rule, just like the people that stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag at the ball games, people that refuse to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in the ball games. They have to protest something, so they kneel. They refuse to honor the flag. They refuse to honor the Pledge of Allegiance. People out there breaking rules just to be doing it. In the early 80s, everything up the 80s, we glorified punk rock and heavy metal, but in the 80s, at the time, punk rockers and metalheads were considered very much rule breakers in the early 80s. Radio stations wouldn't play Ozzy Osbourne songs on most radio stations wouldn't play Ozzy Osbourne songs. They wouldn't play that kind of music on the radio. They wouldn't play Metallica on the radio. If it was a hard rock station, they might have played it. But a lot of that real heavy metal, people, the parental associations, people felt like that music was satanic and devil worship. And there was a lot of parents and mothers and people that were just very against. There's a coalition of parents, that were really trying to censor that heavy metal music. It was a satanic panic for you people who are younger than me, you people that weren't alive in the 80s, and you people who weren't a teenager in the late 80s. I was in my teens in the late 80s. So I started going to high school in 1988. That's when I went to high school. The first semester of fall 88, that's when we moved in this house. That's when my mom moved in this house, was in the fall of 88. The late summer 88 when she moved in this house. And that's when I started going to high school. And, in the 70s and 60s, there's a proper way to do things, more of an idealistic society than it is today. Things are just up for grabs any way you want to do things. But there was more of a concrete idea of what popular music is. Pop rock music was the thing. And there were other genres of music, but they were just minor genres of music. It wasn't really the main thing. There was a proper way for two men to greet each other on the street with a firm handshake. Two men would shake hands with a firm handshake. They would go outside and smoke a cigarette. If people wanted to take care of dirty business, they'd go outside. They go out back to take care of dirty business. Today people are more about being raw and out in the open and being raw. We just don't have as much of an idea of properness today. You go to the funeral, you wear black to a funeral. You wear black to a funeral. There's things you have to do and don't do. There's P's and Q's. You don't talk with your mouth full, and you don't talk about politics and religion at the dinner table. There are things you don't do. There's a sense of P's and Q's. Adult material is staying in the adult section of a store. The adult section. Parents of 13-year-old kids, a lot of parents were against sex education in school. They didn't want their kids to be taught sex education in school. Now people don't talk about, wow, we have sex education in school, but back then when they started putting sex education in school and wanting to implement sex education in school, it was a big deal, even with 13-year-old kids. And I understand in Florida and these states that they say don't say gay, meaning they ban certain books in school. They don't necessarily ban books in public. they ban books in school. You can't have these books in school with young kids. You can't have sex education teaching about transgender and gay in school. A lot of people don't want their kids to be taught that stuff in school because it's like sex education. And I agree, you don't need sex education, gender, transgender, and gender identity to be taught to preschool kids and first grade kids. First grade and kindergarten is too young to be talking about gender identity. You don't need to talk about that stuff with kids because it's like a type of sex education. You see what I'm saying? You don't need to start talking about sex education in school to little kids. People need to almost be to the age of puberty before you start talking about sex education. Sex education is for mature kids to learn about sex education. And the parents have the right to be informed. The parents have the right to be informed about what their kids are learning at school. So there used to be a proper way to do things. But modern society, when I was in school, they had picture day. When they had picture day in school, they have the photos taken for picture day in school. Kids would dress up, and on a regular basis, there were guys who wore button-up shirts, not dress shirts, but casual button-up shirts, casual button-up shirts, like flannel shirts or checkered shirts. And they would take their button-up shirts and they'd tuck in their button-up shirts with their jeans. They would wear jeans with button-up shirts tucked into their jeans. You tuck tuck the shirt into the jeans. If you wore a polo shirt, you would tuck in the polo shirt. If you wanted to look nice and neat in school, if a guy wanted to look nice and neat in school, he would tuck in his polo shirt and have a belt and tuck in his polo shirt to his jeans. You might wear tennis shoes with it. You pair a pair of high top tennis shoes with a pair of jeans, high top tennis shoes, pair of jeans, a guy would, and then have a tucked in, a button up shirt, tucked in. Or maybe even you would have a button up shirt with a sweater over it. So the collar of the button-up shirt sticks out of the sweater. The collar of the button-up shirt sticks out of the sweater, and it's a sweater over top of a button-up shirt. Even a button-up shirt, a sweater over top of a polo shirt, mostly button-up shirts. And you could leave your, shirt tail out with your sweater, or you don't have to tuck in a button-up shirt. That's what I'm saying. It's the styles have changed. Now today, kids want to be ghetto. Everybody has to wear a hoodie, gray or black, It has to be a hoodie and it has to be gray or black. And everything everybody wears today has to be gray or black. Why in the hell does everything people wear have to be gray or black? People look today at tattoos all over and everything, man. There was a time when you see people covered in tattoos, they're a rough person, Nothing against you people with tattoos. I'm just saying people with a lot of tattoos are good people, but they're rough people. Those are the wild people, Now you got everybody with them and you can't tell the good people from the bad because everybody looks that way. You see what I'm saying? You can't tell the good from the bad, but there was a time when the good people were technically supposed to clean themselves up and look clean cut, Good kids are supposed to be clean cut and look good. That's how you know the good kids. The bad kids dress all grungy, There was a time there was an idealistic idea, standard, If you want to be a good kid, if you want to be someone who don't get in trouble, so is a nerd that makes good grades, that's the idea. Just a few things in my head. Thank you.